Executive Director, Charla Schaefer. Good morning, Charla.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me today. Again, my name is Charla Schaefer. I'm with the Community Foundation of Greater Muscatine. And 2019, Community Foundation is celebrating their 20th anniversary. It's been quite a success story. Dick McLean actually brought the idea to the community more than 20 years ago. Jim Nepple provided leadership and office space. And it's truly been a 2-decade story of partnership, stewardship, persistence, and a lot of impact. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. But what do we do? What's Community Foundation do? We're community builders. So we serve as community leaders, conveners, and collaborators. And then we also marshal resources and deploy capital. And we do that primarily in 2 different ways. We provide grants to support nonprofits, charitable activities, and scholarships within our community. And then secondarily, we work with donors, both businesses and individuals, to make contributions to the causes they care most about. So who's our current leadership? We have Bob Barrett, who's the mayor of Wilton, Rich Dwyer, Senior Vice President, Kent Corp, Naomi DeWinter, the president of Muscatine Community College, Bob Jensen, who's president of Temp Associates, Angie Johnson, Executive Director of Unity Point Trinity Muscatine, Cindy Mays is the market president at Midwest One and West Liberty, Brad Nelson is the general manager of Musco. We have Keith Porter, who's the president of Stanley Center for Peace and Security, Jody Royal Goodwin, who's the City of Muscatine Housing and Community Development Director, Jim Stein, Chairman Emeritus from CBI Bank, Jessica Susie's an attorney from Brick Gentry, Brian Trago is the Vice President at Hine Company, and then we have Mike Wilson, who's a trust officer with First National Bank. And part of why I want to touch on that today, just so you can see the breadth of the folks that we have sitting at the table across all different, both industries, as well as the different areas of health, education, and so forth. Now I want to cover a few highlights over the past year. We've grown a bit in size, we've grown a bit in friends, and have grown a bit in impact. Last summer we were at $24 million in assets. As it sits today, we're over $45 million in assets and expect that to rise even more before year end. So we more than doubled in about 15 months. To give you a little bit of perspective, 10 years ago, we were at $4 million. So we've had great stewardship with a lot of great partners and folks realizing how the Community Foundation can support their work. Size matters in community foundations because the larger we are, the more we can positively impact both leadership as well as granting within our community. However, what we know is growth alone isn't necessarily a measure of success. You also have to make sure you're running the shop well. And so what we do is we measure a lot of different things, but one of the things we take a look at is our expenses and compared to our assets, and we benchmark that against community foundations all across the nation. And what we find is that we're running about 1.11% of expenses as compared to assets, and that was actually at the end of 2018. So if you imagine with the growth we've had, that's even quite a bit less. We're at the average is 1.51%. So the Community Foundation, and again, the folks that came before me have run a really tight shop in providing the services we do. As we discuss asset growth, I think it's important to recognize where this comes from. A growing number of people, individuals and businesses, as well as organizations, are opening an array of charitable funds with us. We've more than doubled the number of funds we have just in the last 3 years. We today have over 50 different funds providing resources to a wide range of charitable organizations and activities, and I've provided copies of those for you to take a look at. So what's our investment return? From an investment perspective, more than a quarter of our funds are endowed. What that means is we're creating support for the important initiatives this year, as well as each year thereafter, virtually forever. As been said, these dollars serve at the intersection of urgent need today and lasting impact. Our investment returns, we've got a group of volunteer experts led by Mel McMains, who was the CFO at H&I. And these folks come together and they help us invest our funds that we have. And to give you an idea, we could look at 1 year, but I don't think that's a very good way to look at investments because you could have a really strong year or a really poor year. So we went back over the last 10 years. And over the last 10 years, our average underinvested funds has been 6% to 9.5%, depending on how much equity and fixed asset ratio there is in those funds. So to give you a little bit of idea for the folks that invest their charitable funds with us, on average, we're paying about 7 cents for every dollar at the end of each year, and we're keeping a penny for the work that we do. So 6 cents rise every year for charitable work that they can give back to the community. For those folks that are investing but really just need it for very short term, of course, we have just a fixed asset portfolio for them as well. To give you an idea, over the last year in granting, we granted out more than $1.7 million back into the community. That includes discretionary competitive granting in the amount of $450,000, which affected 80 different organizations last year in Muscatine County. And then we have an affiliate, which is the Louisa County Community Foundation. They supported 70 different grants last year. I thought it was important to mention our Muscatine Health Support Fund, which grants about $160,000 a year for health-related initiatives. This last year decided that they wanted to prioritize the community health priorities that have been established within Muscatine County. And so this year their priorities were mental health and substance abuse, aligning with the priorities that we have for the county. Muscatine Community College partnered with us just this last year to utilize the online scholarship portal. They gave out over $300,000 in scholarships from Muscatine Community College. With the addition of our over $400,000, we gave out about $750,000 worth of scholarships to area kids. And on our scholarships, when you do the math, it averaged about $3,000 per student. Now, the additional $800,000 that's left over between the conversations we've had on discretionary granting and some of the scholarship work and so forth, those $800,000 are individual funds that grant dollars back into the community for charitable activities and to bring us that $1.7 million. So it's a pretty exciting time. There's been great growth. Our board has been discussing how our funding and work can be more systemic across all the platforms. How do we get the most value out of the dollars we spend? We can increase funding, we can try to decrease need. And so one of the things we do is we partner with other organizations to fund area food backpack programs for children in need of nutrition over the weekends. And so in the spring, our board turned to how can we be more strategic and change those children's futures? They can't fill their heads when their bellies are empty. And so what we did is we applied, and we're one of 13 organizations awarded a Future Ready Iowa grant by Governor Kim Reynolds, the Employer Innovation Grant. And this grant's helping us fund an innovative collective pilot with Trinity Public Health, Muscatine Community College, the City of Muscatine, Muscatine Center for Social Action, Aligned Impact Muscatine, and United Way. With this collaboration of organizations and work, we can collectively target the families of children receiving food backpacks, address the emergent issues with economic navigators, but then more importantly, we can get the custodial parent advanced education through compressed 6-week certificate courses in welding, CNA, or CNC programs. And then once they have a job, they'll have a job awaiting, assuming they pass screenings. And at that point, the economic navigator will stay with the employer and the employee in case unforeseen barriers happen during the first 6 months to try to create stability. What we know is someone, typically an employee that works 6 months will still be there at the end of 2 years. So it's an exciting program. What we're looking at is the end of having upskilled workforce for our community, modeling education and stabilized homes. We also have received a grant from the Iowa Council Foundations in support of advancing our charitable work that we're doing. We collectively began community conversations on child care needs with Aligned Impact Muscatine leading that, and including Early Childhood Iowa, the Muscatine Y, H&I, and Kent, as well as other community partners. Muscatine County has lost 49% of child care providers in the past 5 years, and 72% of parents both work. So it's a conversation that we're taking a look at. We're also focusing on growing benevolent youth and the emerging voices of our community. We're beginning a youth philanthropy leadership program for high school students, and we're also going to include some at-risk students as part of that program. And in March, we're going to be bringing the rural community specialist, Ben Winchester, to our area to speak to area leaders, influencers, and those that are interested on moving in, moving out, and moving over the future of our rural communities. And Ben will kind of redefine how we look at growth in our towns, and it's good news. So we're excited about him coming. Before I close, I'd add that we are accredited. We are one of the first of the 100 accredited community foundations across the nation, and we continue to hold that because we think it's an important standard to be able to show when we're helping folks with their money and making sure they reach their charitable interests. So we continue to be accredited through the National Council of Foundations. We'll continue to be thoughtful and strategic in our words and our actions as we work alongside you and others to design a better tomorrow for our communities. We appreciate the work that you do, and it's truly a privilege to be part of the work going on. So I thank you, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody?
I think they do a great job.
That's a lot of information today, Charlotte. Thank you so much.
We really appreciate the time to come in and visit with you.
And yeah, if there's anything we can do to help your outreach and your work, don't hesitate to let us know. You
Thank
guys are
you.
doing great work.
I love the collaboration